All right, welcome. I'm so happy to have all of you here today. My name is Kennedy Tyre, and I think we got a fun little conversation with you for you here today. We are speaking with Joe Marr Wilson. He is an attorney in Amarillo, Texas, and has been so for many years. And he is also running for the judgeship, the district judgeship in the 47th district here in Texas. So Joe Marr also happens to be my father-in-law, and one of the people who I really respect, both with his worldviews and specifically when as pertains to the law and our court system today. So I'm just so excited to have his mind here to kind of share a little insight with our conversation. So Joe Marr, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me, Kennedy. This sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So I'm excited to talk to you about just kind of our judicial system, how it functions, and also some kind of specific questions about just like constitutional law and the Bill of Rights. But first, before we get into any of that, can you just give us kind of a brief overview of who you are and kind of your career?
Who I am is just a kid that grew up in the Texas Panhandle, graduated Dalhart High School, went to school at West Texas State University and law school at Texas Tech University, and then came back to Amarillo to practice law. Started with another individual doing civil law, personal injury work, did that for a couple of years, went out on my own and started doing criminal and family law. Determined that I really enjoyed criminal and family law and was pretty good at it. So after I'd been doing that a few years, I applied to be considered to be board certified by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization in criminal and family law, which requires references. It requires you to have practice in each of those fields for more than 25% of your practice for more than 3 years, and to have had substantial trial work during that period of time, and to take a 6-hour examination each in each category and pass that. And I was fortunate enough to do that in 1995. And I took them both exams the same day because I knew I'd never take one again if I didn't. So, and luckily passed those and been board certified and recertified every 5 years after that. Practice here in Amarillo. Mainly, it's our partnership includes me and your mother-in-law Becky, who runs the ship and keeps everything going the correct way it should go, and points me in the right directions to go every day. And we've been very fortunate to be able to maintain and create a very successful law practice here in Amarillo.
Yeah, that's excellent. So let me ask you, you were talking about being board certified in both criminal and family law. You told me a little bit about how much goes into that. How common is that among people?
Well, board certification is not, it depends on what area of the law. I mean, there's a lot of different board certifications now. And it's I don't have the statistics on board certification totally, but with regard to, say, family law, there's only like 750 lawyers in the whole state that are board certified in family law. Criminal law, I think there's actually a little more. There's only 14 of us in the state that are double certified in criminal and family law. Now, there are certain types of certifications that people are double certified in that are very closely related. It's not unusual for somebody to be double certified in civil trial law and personal injury trial law, but they're not much different. But to have two separate areas of the law, it requires that you practice both of those a lot. And so that's what we do here. To me, what it shows is that I've went the extra mile to prove to the public that the state shows that I'm an expert in those two types of law, and that the public can have a great amount of confidence in my ability to give them the highest type of professional services in those types of law that's available to them, certainly in this area or anywhere else in the state.
It's very interesting. Yeah, that's a very unique thing and uncommon for sure. So we were kind of talking that you are running for a district judgeship, but even whenever I first heard that you were considering this, I was a little bit unaware of what a district judge does in fact do for the public. Can you kind of give us a little bit of an explanation on like what their role is?
Sure. District courts are established are the primary trial court established by the Texas Constitution. They are what are called courts of general jurisdiction, which means as they exist straight out of the Constitution, they have jurisdiction over civil cases over $500, family law cases, felony criminal cases, certain other administrative appeals, things of that nature that are not that common, that no one's ever heard of about half the time. And that's the main things that they do. Now, by statute, they can have some differing types of added or subtracted jurisdiction. And then most commonly in a lot of counties, in a lot of large counties, by either by statute or more commonly by agreement between the judges, some district courts will specialize in certain areas. For instance, where you're at, well, I'm probably in Fort Bend, but certainly in Harris County in Houston, I don't believe any of their district courts, by agreement of the judges, function as general jurisdiction. You'll have civil courts that do only civil cases.
Right.
You'll have family courts that do only family cases. You'll have criminal courts that do only criminal cases. In fact, I know in one instance, they have one or two courts up there that not only do only family cases, they only do protective order cases. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, there's 3 million people down there, so I mean, there's a lot of specialty in that.
Yeah, for sure.
In up here in Amarillo and Potter and Randall County, we have 5 district courts total, and all of them are general still. They do have some agreements depending on which county you're in on what types of cases, what percentages of what types of cases they'll take. Then you get out in the rural areas and it's just totally it's totally different than that. 2 of our district courts up here by us have 5 counties each. So they do everything in 5 counties because the population is so low. So the district courts are really kind of the jack of all trades of trial courts with regard to serious matters.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, for being just such a kind of vital role within the community there, can you kind of explain what its relationship to the public is, a judge who sits in that seat, and just kind of how does that person affect the citizens in general and for their region?
Well, it's kind of one of the things that I've found has been very a difficult, I don't want to say obstacle in my campaign actually, is that people really don't think about these jobs unless you've experienced a situation in which you've been pulled into it. It's not something you just run into on the street. You don't, it's not like your county clerk where people go get marriage licenses, they go file deeds, they go do all sorts of things there that in their life, they're probably going to do several of those things, or many times they may do those things that take them into that office. But if they come into a district court or some of the other trial courts, usually it's not pleasant. I mean, there's something bad going on in their life or something different than normal. They or someone they love or a friend has been charged with a felony offense. They or someone or some loved one or a friend are getting divorced or have a child custody case. Somebody's getting sued or somebody is suing for something. So it's conflict. And if you've been in that situation, then that judge has a lot of effect on you because they're going to control, not necessarily the outcome, that can depend on other things, jury maybe, but they're going to control the administration of that case. They may control the outcome if they're the ones making the decision, and they can have a lot of discretion and a lot of power over your life or how your life's going to be after you're in there. Now, if you never experience one of those things, then you don't have any conception whatsoever or any concept whatsoever of what that court does, and probably don't care. And so that's where, when you're running, trying to get that across to people if they haven't already been in that situation is very difficult.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And it's kind of interesting. It's like we usually know who our representatives are for the state legislature and definitely the federal legislature. And, we always put a lot of effort into thinking about that. And we're like, oh, that person's going to represent me and maybe advocate for me. But, that person is usually probably inconsequential as much as far affecting your individual life. Whereas when you're talking about a judge, there's always that possibility that that person is going to be making a very important decision in your life. And we get the privilege to be able to elect someone like that. So that's, it's a very kind of neat thing that I don't think most people consider.
I don't think they do. And I think that we're very fortunate in Texas. We get to elect judges. There's a lot of cons, I guess you would say, a lot of disadvantages of electing judges. Sometimes people look at it and think that is a crazy way to come about it. But the other ways might work in a perfect world, but they don't work in a practical world. And that is strict appointment or some variation of that, where someone's appointed and then they run for a retention election. At least if you're running for it in the first place, you get a chance to go out and convince people to vote for you. Whereas if you're getting appointed, somebody's picking you. And while we would like to think that there's a rigorous process that always gets to the best person, sometimes that's true and sometimes that's not necessarily so true. And so I think it's good that people get to elect judges. Now they need to, like any other elective office, they need to take a lot of care and a lot of time when they exercise that right.
Very true. Very true.